Hello, friends, it's Chops, and welcome to another Chops vlog. Man, I said that I was going to be stepping back and not doing much, and that's true. I have not done a whole lot, but man, a whole lot sure has happened. The things I did get done were I got BFA cooking as far as I could with the recipes that I can learn, which means I'm 25 points off of done. All my recipes are gray, and I can't learn any more recipes to finish it out, which means that I am 5 months of Dark Moon Fair daily quests from finishing up BFA cooking. I'm slightly worried that's also going to happen with Legion. So that's kind of what I'm doing today is I'm going to fish up a bunch of Barracudas to level up some Legion as far as I can take it. It's the only 3 rank recipe I have, so good luck to me, I guess. I did also get the socket shield. I've been farming for like 2.5 months, killing a WOD rare every day. There are 2 crit verse shields that drop off of Apexis rares in WOD that you can get, and those have a chance to proc a socket. And so you can farm 2 different shields, 1 kill a day every day, for two different shields that you could get crit verse on. You would think that would make it pretty quick, but it was 2 rares a day every day for like 80 days. So yeah, WOD rares don't really have a very high proc rate for sockets. It takes a while sometimes. So I finally got that done. Very excited. And nothing else happened in the Twink world. There's no news to talk about or anything like that. So thanks for hanging out, and I will talk to you guys next time. No, I'm kidding. Of course, we're going to talk about it. Of course, we are going to talk about the biggest news to hit Twinking, this X-Pack. Free-to-play and vet characters are now considered experience off for the purposes of PvP queues, which means they took us out of leveler battlegrounds, they put us into XP off battlegrounds, and that means that 29 Twinks now have pops because they've got free to plays to farm, and so 29 Twinking is back. May it rot forever. I'm not gonna pick on 29s too much. I think they're a funny bracket that claims to have some sort of like purpose beyond just farming unsuspecting free to plays, but they don't exist outside of free to plays. So, anyways. I think overall it's a good change. It's something Blizzard should have done years and years and years ago. Is take vets and free to plays out of leveler queues as soon as it became apparent that we were twinking in them. I wish that they had put free to plays and vets into their own queue, like. I think it is kind of gnarly that like a new starter account player is going to get taken like when they're leveling up from 10 to 19 and if they queue PvP, they're in regular leveler battlegrounds, right? Like Blizzard coded that correctly. It's just that when they hit 20, all of a sudden they're going to get dumped into what is in a couple of weeks just going to be 29 Twinks farming free to plays, and that is kind of a gnarly situation for like the new player to get put into, and I guess it could be seen that it like forces them to say, well, if I want to like have a good time PvPing, I have to pay for the game, right? I guess you could say that, but it's also kind of like, man, that does kind of suck. The counterpoint to that is, of course, if you put 20s in their own queues, they're just going to get farmed by free to play and vet twinks anyway. But I don't know what the answer is, but I think the better choice would have been putting 20s in their own queue. And I still kind of hope that that's eventually what they do. Take us out of the leveler battleground. Sure, it's fair. But you know, putting us in our own queue is at least a little more of a reasonable thing if I'm thinking about like the new player experience, right? But maybe that's a little too like it creates, I guess, like maybe a little more of a sort of isolate or insulated game then that doesn't sort of encourage subbing. I don't know. I think it's a more I think this change was a good change, but it was a little ham-fisted, and they probably could have done something a little better. Like taking us out of leveler queues is good. Putting us into XP off queues is, I guess, understandable. Like that's simple, but it's not really like it's not the scalpel, right? It's the sledgehammer. And so that's it is what it is. It would have been cooler to have a 20s only bracket, but I guess I can understand why we don't. That is to say, I had a long conversation with Cygnus over on his channel about this, and you'll see a link for that pop up in that corner. Yeah, that corner up there. We talked for like an hour and a half, almost 2 hours, about sort of like why this isn't a huge deal, because it's not like the first time this has ever happened to free to plays. Like we've been the bottom of the PvP bracket for most of our existence. We talked a lot about sort of like what we think maybe the future of Twinking looks like. Spoiler alert, I think this more or less kills it as sort of a mass thing. The only people who will be left twinking in like 6 months, assuming nothing changes, is going to be free-to-plays like me who are here for the free-to-play experience, and roving bands of 29s just trying to farm free-to-plays. That'll be twinking, except for that, and classic twinking, I think is going to make a comeback in sort of a large way when Wrath releases, because Wrath is when the 30-minute timer gets put on Warsong Gulch, and I also think it's when stacks are applied to flag carriers. So we're not going to have to put up with like 2.5-hour Warsong Gulch games anymore. The concept of Warsong Gulch just being a contest of terrain jumps as druids run around the map, outclassing everybody on jumps and speed and stuff like that is, at least in 39s where I'll be playing, jumps will still matter, but not sort of to the extent that they do, because you'll get mounts. Flag stacks on flag carriers are a thing. Like all of that is going to be around in Wrath. So I think the future of twinking looks like retail 20s, whatever degenerates are still playing 29s, and then classic. So that's fun. I really liked Wrath 39s. It's where I cut my teeth, and so I'm looking forward to that. I have actually, I haven't been working much on my 20. I have been building a 39 twink. I've got a 39 dwarf, well, 37 currently, dwarf warrior on Pagel. Yes, I know dwarf is not like the meta race selection. If you're going to play a 39 warrior, you want to be an orc or a human. But dwarfs are cool, and it's, this is the second go round in Wrath twinking. I think we should probably have a little more fun with it rather than worry about like what is and isn't like the uber meta min-max race selection. That might just be coat. I do want to be a warrior or an orc warrior because my original 39 warrior was an orc. But, like I said, dwarfs are cool. So we're working on that, man. We've got most of it put together. We just need to get a few more pieces of gear. We're gonna park it at 38 because I remember there being a pretty big reduction in the amount of XP needed to level between Burning Crusade and Wrath, and so I don't want my 39 to be like 1 point away from leveling, even though we'll be able to turn experience off, which is kind of a cool thing that they did in Classic, by the way, is they're not segregating the queues in Classic, so which is why I think it's going to be pretty popular. Anyways, so you can turn your XP off, but I still don't want to be like 1 experience point away from leveling, which is what happened to all the Twinks in the original Burning Crusade, is because the squish of XP or the reduction in experience needed to go from 1 to 80 was significantly reduced. Everybody ended up 1 experience point away from leveling. And I don't want to do that. That always makes me a little nervous. So we're going to go to 38 so that when that reduction happens, I'm a little distance from 39, and I can go level to 39 pretty easily, lock my experience, and be good to go. So that's the plan there. But yeah, it's been a good time. It's been fun revisiting 39s. I hopped on and just had an instant like wave of nostalgia, just seeing all the different icons and seeing like all the different gear and going back and watching some of the old videos. It made me really miss it. So I'm hoping that it's not like rose-colored glasses and it's like really bad, and I just hadn't remembered that. So that's kind of where I'm at. There is I'll be building a tune for Classic, but I'm not done here yet. Don't let that get you thinking that I'm done with 20s. 20s are cool, and so I'm very excited to keep doing this. One of the things I kind of touched on a little bit when I was talking with Sig, and I've touched on a bit on the forums and stuff, is that I'm really very excited for 20s to be cool again. You know what I mean? Like, until Tuesday, until this change was made, 20s were the default. Like, if you were into twinking, 20s was kind of what you did, right? Because it was the only way to get casual games, which is what everybody wants. They want to just log on, press the Q button, get into games. And 20s were the only way to do that. And so it was sort of like the default. Everybody was a 20. And if you played a free-to-play, everybody was like, well, that's just a harder vet, right? Like, why would you do that when vets exist? And, you know, it took a long time to try to get people to understand, like, you're in it for the grind. The hard work is why you're there. The long grind is why you're there. It makes it that much more rewarding. It makes it that much more fun. Where they all just kind of look at you weird, which is kind of what they do to free-to-plays anyway. But, like, there was a little bit of a point, like, if this is sort of the default and everybody's doing it, and they removed the profession caps on free-to-plays, which gave you access to gems and enchants and all that stuff. It did kind of seem a little bit like, well, if everybody's playing at 20s and you're the guy that's insisting on taking a month to transmute your gems and another like day or so worth of work to juggle professions, to get your engineering, get your alchemy, get your enchants, and all that stuff, and doing all that work just to be at where a vet is in a couple days of, you know, grinding dungeon gear. Why, right? But now that 20s are not the default, the free-to-play experience makes more sense again. Like, it's like, all right, you know, you do this, like, free-to-plays get to be their own little special, unique twinking experience again, right? Rather than confusing people about, like, well, why don't you just go vet? At least now it's like, well, this is a scene that makes sense. Like, people may not want to do it, but at least they sort of like have a distinction that can be drawn between 20s and 29s as to like why you would play 20s instead of going to 29 or any other twink bracket, and especially like why you would play free to play. I think that distinction becomes clearer and easier for people to wrap their heads around, and I think makes 20s more attractive in a way, and it certainly moves us back into being like cool again, right? Like when it was the default, when it was what everybody was doing, it just didn't feel as neat. It didn't feel as hooligan-y as it used to. And now it does again. Now it does. It feels a little more rad. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm very excited for that aspect of it. I think that is very good. The night that this news dropped and we found out that we found out that we had been put into XP off queues. Selfishly, I was extremely giddy because I was like, yes, good. Get these tourists out of here. Give me back my pure 20s experience of me and the people who really get it in terms of 20s twinking, and all these bracket tourists can go to 29. Like I said, selfishly, I was very giddy about the change. I thought it was great. And I do think it's a good change. Like I said earlier, it does just kind of, I'm not going to go back over it. It does kind of feel a little weird if I'm thinking about like brand new players. But anyways, so yeah, I'm really excited that it's back. You know, I had made that video earlier in the X Pack, like way earlier in the X Pack, that free to play was the new pop punk, man. It wasn't punk rock anymore. It wasn't cool. It was very fun, but it wasn't cool. It's gone back. Free to play is the new punk rock. Like it's gone back to being cool. Which means if you're on the you know the fence about getting into free to play, now's the time, man. Now's the time. You can say you got into free to play when it was cool. You can look at it and say, yeah, man, I didn't jump in when level 20s were farming levelers because I thought that was a little weird. But now I'm into it, man. Now I'm into it because it's cool. There's your reason to get into it now. But yeah, that's sort of what's going on. That's the big news. If you want a deeper dive into it, if you want to hear sort of my extended thoughts on it, bouncing some ideas off Sig. It was a really good talk. Sig's a great guy. For like the two of you who are my subscribers who don't know who Cygnus is, go check him out. He's a great guy, makes a lot of great guides, super into 20s, super into twinking. His channel is just a wealth of resources as far as guides and just streams and chatting and all that stuff. Go check it out. We had a great talk. Like I said, it's about an hour and a half. It's great to put on if you're like working and you need something to listen to in your headphones or something like that. You've got like a long commute, maybe. Think of it as like a one-off podcast. It was a great time. I had a blast. Really encourage y'all to watch that, especially if you want sort of like my deeper thoughts on everything, and me actually in a more conversational situation rather than just rambling at y'all into a camera. But yeah, that really is it for this one, guys. Thank you for hanging out, and I will talk to y'all next time.